You're welcome to Business Live, where we take a look at topical business issues as well as economic issues. Let's begin the day with our business news roundup.
Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Millicent Kwejona, has hinted that the central bank is revising the current Banking Act to enable it to address some identified gaps. He said the Deposit Protection Bill is also about to be passed by Parliament to provide protection for small savers. Dr. Na said the passage of the two legislations would help the country to have a better framework to deal with microfinance institutions that had gone down. Chief Executive of MTN Ghana, Ebenezer Chuma Santi, says the only way telecom operators can be profitable in Ghana is for the country to have a maximum of 3 players. He noted that what is happening in the industry in terms of dwindling profits and the market share and subscriber-based trends show that the industry is gradually consolidating around 4 players. The Minister of Trade and Industry, Dr. Ekosbio Gabra, has impressed on corporate institutions the need to improve their support for young entrepreneurs in the country. According to him, this will help in shaping the ideas and business plans as well as unearth the skills of such entrepreneurs. Access to funding and mentoring opportunities continue to impact on the growth of most startups in the country, a situation Dr. Spio Gabra believes could be reversed with a commitment from corporate institutions to support government's efforts. Africa-focused oil producer Tullow Oil said it would have to lower its production outlook due to a technical fault that has forced a longer-than-planned shutdown at its Jubilee oil field off Ghana. The shares rose, however, as crude oil prices advanced. According to Tullow, a damaged turret means a maintenance shutdown will take another 2 weeks and production flows will take even more time to ramp up.
That was the business news run-up for today. Now to our very main story for the day, and mango traders are expected to cash in as the crop season also sets in. But those at the Tema station here in Accra are rather counting their losses as their produce are going bad because of lack of ready market. Etonam reports.
Mango is one locally grown crop whose economic potential cannot be overemphasized. It can be processed for exports, making the Export Development and Agricultural Investment Fund (EDIF) invest in it as a foreign exchange earner for the country. It is also consumed locally as a fruit. But Margaret, a trader, tells Joy Business the mangoes transported all the way from Angloga are wasting away because of the lack of buyers.
We bring mangoes from Angloga to Iwi, all in the Volta region. The journey to Accra is far, and on arrival, the mangoes go soft, and so if you don't find people to buy on time, you run at a loss. We don't have any storage system for the mangoes. Our main customers are the traders in the market who retail the mangoes. These days, they complain of lack of money, so they don't buy well.
Other traders are forced to reduce the cost of the mango in order to speed up sales.
And we want government to push for that. A basket of mango is sold for 100 cedis, but people complain it's expensive. So now we have reduced it to 80 cedis.
The traders are therefore calling for government's intervention to boost local demand for the mangoes.
Companies that produce mango juice should come and buy from us so we can have a ready market.
The traders also want a demarcated space for storage of their produce here at the Tema station.
All right, so that was Etonam Says report. Meanwhile, a senior business advisor at Isoko Ghana and a Greek information service provider, Francis Ajay, analyzes the situation as an excess supply over demand on the market. In an interview with Joy Business, he noted that for some reason, a great deal of mangoes had not been exported, and that has ended up on the markets, thereby reducing prices.
Currently, we are learning that there has been an excess in supply of mangoes, which is leading to a drastic fall in the prices. What could have attributed to this development?
When we talk about mangoes, first of all, we have to know that mangoes are mainly exported from the country, and so all those growing mangoes do export them onto the European markets. And so when you have a lot of it on the local market, then it means that they were not able to export a lot onto the international market, and so they are trying to sell whatever that is left within the country. And so that is how come you have a lot of it being on the market and then reducing the prices that we buy mangoes for on the market. Again, when you look at the mangoes that they are selling now, they are of the imported, or the varieties that we have are not the local varieties that we normally see around December. These ones are what we call the salo mangoes. That is the imported ones that we have on them. We could attribute it to two reasons. One being that we have a lot of people growing mangoes nowadays, and then for each of the markets that they sell to, you have a quota that your buyers can buy. And so if you have a lot of people growing mangoes, you really have a lot of them being produced in the country, and then the buyers also have limited quantities that they can also buy. And then two, being the fact that we've also been able to grow the varieties that they want, and so a lot of people are now trying to cash in onto the new fray that is the mango business that we have in the country. So one being that people are trying to cash in onto the new fray that we have growing mangoes. Mango is a business now. And then two being that we have a limited number that we're able to export because of a lot of the standards that they put in place.
Okay, so can the change in weather pattern also be a factor here?
Weather affects everything that we do in Ghana when you come to agriculture, because we are dependent on weather. And then the mango farms that I see around, I don't think we have anyone that is under irrigation. And so we all most often depend on the rainfall. And so as the weather patterns change, you have them also changing. And then the mangoes that we have currently, you harvest them 2 times within a year, depending on where you are and depending on the varieties that you grow. You're able to harvest them 2 times within a year.
Okay. Now, you talk of export of mangoes. I mean, how large is this market, this export market?
Currently, we have some amount of sizable revenues coming in from what we export. And I think that we export not less than between 2,000 to 3,000 metric tons a year. We generate quite a sizable amount from it. I think that we are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. We are looking at yearly basis.
Are we also to expect that this kind of change, I mean, is also going to occur with some of the other food items we have, the regular ones that we consume, like the tomatoes, the yam, and the rice, for instance?
Yes, we should expect that because of the current climatic changes, we also experience some kind of changes in the ones that we grow and normally see on our markets. And so tomato, for instance, from the past season till now has been affected. When you look at the prices, you realize that the prices that we bought them for about a year ago has doubled.
That was Senior Business Advisor at Isoko, Ghana, Francis J, analyzing the situation that is currently affecting mango selling on the market. We're taking a short break. You're still live on Business Live. Don't go away yet. We're coming back right after this. Thanks for staying and welcome back to Business Live. It's now time to take a look at developments on the stock market, and I've been joined by regular analyst Bertha Atubiga, who tells us more about the various equities, commodities, as well as the performance of the Ghana cedi as against other international currencies. Bertha, good evening and welcome.
Yeah, good evening.
Now, let's first start with the commodities. How did they fare last Friday?
Okay, so let me say last week we saw some positive trends for crude oil. In terms of price movements, it was an upward one. Okay. And then we also saw gold going up. And if you look at the changes, it's not that significant. Last week, crude oil was around $40.26 per barrel. And then it closed last week, And then last week, it closed at $40.57 per barrel. That was an appreciation of 0.77%. And then when you look at cocoa also went up by 0.22% to close at $1,235.05. And previous week was $1,232.33. So you look at the difference, it's not very big. And then cocoa, however, actually recorded a price decline. You look at the price, it was $2,950 and it closed at $2,876. And that is what we actually saw.
What would be the reason for this kind of volatility in the pricing?
The world market is quite very, very wide. We get cocoa from different countries apart from Ghana. Ghana is also an exporter of cocoa. Okay. We have other francophone countries also export cocoa as well. But one thing that actually also determines prices of these commodities on the world market is demand and supply. When supply outweighs demand, then it means that the buyer has the price to give you. So we see prices actually going down. But when demand outweighs supply, then we see the price actually going up. And probably that could be one of the reasons why we're seeing this performance on the world market. We don't have control, like as a country, we don't have control over what happens on the commodity market because it's a world market and there are so many factors that comes into that.
All right. So now let's go to the currencies and how the Ghana cedi fare against the dollar, the pound sterling.
Last week was also another mixed performance week for the local currency. We saw it appreciating or gaining marginally to the dollar and the pound, but lost to the euro. And when you look at the week and when you look at the Gold Coast cedi index, it actually measures the average performance of the cedi against the dollar, the pound, the euro, and the CFA. Okay. It closed last week with a year-to-date depreciation of 1.33%. That's a year-to-date depreciation. But when you look at the week under review, there was an average daily gain of 1.42% of the cedi against these major trading partners. And for the quote, that's the cedi, it closed last week an average quote of 3 Ghana cedis, 8,237 pesos to $1. And for the pound, it went for 5 cedis, 3,930 pesos, and the euro was at 4 cedis, 3,604 pesos. So these are the average quotes for these currencies against the local currency, that's the cedi, on the Ghana interbank market as at the close of last week.
And certainly not on the forex?
Not on the forex market. These are interbank rates that we usually look at.
Now let's go to the equities. The financial equities have not been doing so well over the past week. How did they fare last Friday?
Last week on the stock market, let me say, in terms of equities that actually traded in the market, that's the worth of equities that exchange hands on the Ghana Stock Exchange. We can say there was much improvement, or let me say significant improvement in terms of the equities that exchange hands. Over 520.25% of equities were added to what we saw in the previous week. Okay. So you see, last week we saw about 381,049 equities exchanging hands, and then this last 2 weeks. Then last week we saw 2,363,446 worth of shares trading on the Ghana Stock Exchange, and that gave us a sales value of 4,669,250. 6.86 Ghana cedis. So the worth of the equities that traded on the exchange actually went up by 1,009.02%. So that was a significant shift. And if you also notice, the past 2 weeks we saw trading activity actually starting from Tuesday to Friday, but last week we had a full trading session. And one surprising thing that happened last week was that it was only on Thursday that we saw a positive price appreciation on the market. That is, a listed equity actually adding up to investors' capital, and that was EGH, formerly EBG, that's EcoBank Ghana. It advanced by a peso to close at 6 Ghana cedis, 99 pesos, and this was actually pushed by the strong fundamentals that they have. Aside that, Monday, all equities traded flat, and then Tuesday, we saw all equities trading on the exchange actually losing on their previous share prices. Same thing happened on Wednesday, and on Thursday, EGH, that's EBG, happened to gain on its share price. And then Friday, we saw one equity actually trading, and it also lost on its share price on the market. So that is why we had only just one equity, and for gaining, that's EGH, closing at 6 Ghana cedis, 99 pesos. For the major indices, that's the composite index and the financial stock index, we saw it dipping further into the negative regions. We saw the composite closing at negative 4.46%, started the week at negative 4.28%, and then the financial stock index started at negative 5.68%, and then it closed at negative 5.84%. So we saw these major indices going down by 0.18% and then 0.16% respectively for the week and the review. Right. And when we talk about the worth, how much the Ghana Stock Exchange is worth now, that's the market capitalization of the exchange, it also dropped marginally, because when you look at the equities, actually, though some of them are not very large market cap equities, but there were other financial equities, just like Standard Chartered Bank, GCB, that's Ghana Commercial, formerly Ghana Commercial Bank. Societe Generale was also a loser. Standard Chartered Bank, yes, SCB was also part of the losers. So definitely we saw that drag on the market cap, despite the fact that EBG gained a peso. Now the worth closed the week at 54,771.64 million Ghana cedis, losing 19.55 million on its previous week, or its week open worth or value. That is what we saw. And for the equities that lost, let me say MLC was the second top loser. Aluex lost a peso to close at 7 pesos per share. That was 12.50% of its share price for the week. And then we saw MLC losing about 5%. That's also a peso loss. To close at 19 pesos per share. And then Societe Generale, which is a French bank, apparently being part of the top 3 losers on the market, lost. So it lost a peso as well. That was 1.23% of its week open value. All
right, now, which equities should investors be aiming at this week? And which
this week, from Goldcoast and GN Research, what we are actually looking out for this week is that we are expecting, last week we were expecting FML, Unilever, and then EGH, that's EBG, to make some moves on the market. EGH happened to be the only sole gainer on Thursday, but when you look at the volumes of shares that were traded for the week, it actually went up, and that was because we saw high volumes in equities such as FML and then ETI. And that is why we saw very huge volumes of shares trading. And this week, we're still looking out for FML to make some gains. We're looking out for Unilever, and then we're looking out for EGH as well. If these equities don't even record any price appreciations, but we still see some volumes of shares being traded in these equities on the market, it's not every time, like we saw last week, that we always see price appreciations, but we see these equities actively trading on the market, and that is a very positive sign for investors out there, because one thing that you need to look out for your equities is it very liquid. If you want to sell off, are you able to sell off easily? And if you want to buy this equity, are you able to buy it easily on the market? And these are some of the equities that are currently very active on the market. ETI, Carl is also very active, but last week it lost a peso on its week open value. But these are some of the equities that we are looking out for. And some of the reasons why we are actually expecting some positive returns for these equities is because, one, their financials are very impressive. FML recorded I think about 203% year-on-year on its profits. We saw GOIL also having some positive returns on its profits, Unilever as well. And you look at the strategy that FML employed last year, I mean, it's so outstanding, and I actually want to say a very congrats to the team, the management team of FML for doing that, despite the energy crisis that we're experiencing. Then latter part of the year it became okay. So if we are going to see this stability in the energy crisis that we actually had, whereby now we have some kind of stable power, then we should expect more from this equity, and that is also going to boost investors' confidence.
Now, what about the equities of the oil marketing companies like GOIL?
Yes, GOIL is also expected to do well this week, and it also has very impressive financials, so investors should also look out for these equities. And one thing that I also say is that they should try and get in now. Now prices are very low.
So this
Probably
is the time
they
to
can
go out
even
to
wait.
buy.
Yes, this is the right time. That is actually the right time to buy. So that when the market finally picks up, the stock market is a long-term investment place. You don't make, you can make returns in the short term, and that would mean you need the right investment advice that will come from Gold Coast, and then you'll be able to make that short-term returns or maximum returns. But in the medium to long term, you need that financial advice that's worth its weight.
Now, anything to tell us about the alternative exchange markets?
The alternative market, the GAX has also, let's say last week we saw intravenous also trading. I'm talking about shares trading on the market. HORS also very active. These two equities, intravenous and then HORS, are very active on the market, on the GAX, yes. And when you look at HORS, for instance, which was listed on the exchange by Gold Coast Brokerage, from inception, from the IPO to date, it has returned 100% to investors. And then you look at its year to date, from January till now, HORS has returned 25% to investors. And it's currently one of the, let's say, it is recording the highest year-to-date returns on the GAX. So HORS, intravenous are doing very well. Investors can also look out for these particular equities on the alternative market for long-term returns.
All right, that will be it. Thank you so much,
Thank you very much
for that update. The stock market. Bertha Atubika is a stock analyst. She brought to us the performance of the stock market last week, how it ended, and projected into this week for investors who would like to go onto the market to do some business. And that wraps up for today's edition of Business Live. Thanks for joining us, and do join us again same time next week. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Riafin. Up next is Focus on Africa.